It's worth a look-see. All right. Oh my God, you guys. I am on the edge of my seat. And once again, here we are back with Philip and Michael for our weekly recap review, full of spoilers. We have to have spoilers. There's no way we could possibly talk about any of this without spoiling it. So hopefully you've all watched the episode. If you have not and don't care about being spoiled, then stay on board with us because we have a lot to talk about, honestly, for a lot more different reasons than I kind of expected. So this week we had LifeDeath Part 2, which I feel was little bit of a misleading title, given how the show opened and honestly dominated, in my opinion. So initial thoughts, Philip?
Well, this is the episode I think you and I were most anxiously awaiting based on title, until last week happened, and now we're just waiting to see how that resolves. But I will say first that they did in this episode what I thought they should have done in, what do you call it? What was it again? Motendo LifeDeath?
Jesus, Lord have mercy.
Have,
Hopefully you never have to say that again, right?
I know, that's a sentence I never want to finish in my life. They intersperse the story back and forth versus let's do our 15-minute dominant storyline and then give Storm 6 to 8 minutes. That was the part of this that I was like, we were misled so big on this because the title was LifeDeath 2, and that would lead anyone who is an X-Men fan to believe that this was going to be an all-Storm episode. And even if it wasn't all-Storm, it should have been Storm heavy, and it was very Storm light. That left a bad taste in my mouth. If they hadn't ended it the way I wanted them to, I would be a lot more passionate about my critique this week because I got what I wanted. And we'll get into that, of course, because I know you and I can talk for 20 minutes on fashion alone.
That actually was like the gasp moment of the whole show, don't you think? Obviously. And what we are talking, well, I don't know. Let's actually, yeah, I was super disappointed. Like, fucking, oh, pardon my French. We were going to keep this family friendly. Forgive me. I am not going to cuss anymore. But so we open with Charles Xavier, who I thought was dead, and I didn't realize he was off in space. Maybe I glazed over that somehow, but I think it's super messed up that he left the X-Men to think he was dead, not only to think he was dead, but leave them in the charge of their greatest enemy. But I feel like Xavier is a great parallel for one of our other messed up parental figures, Hippolyta. She always did Diana dirty. That's a show for another day, but I feel like Xavier just has like walked all over. I mean, we've actually referenced this before. I feel like in the way he handled their leadership, or no, the way he wanted. Like, was it Secret Wars where he thought he was gonna like dominate Storm's leadership, or usurp it in a way.
Colossus take charge in the field there, so he was constantly undermining her there, and Wolverine made a mention of that after they got back. About how after Psyche came back from his, Jean grieving period, Storm was still field leader, but Psyche kept taking control. And I think Wolverine, meaning well and doing well, but undercutting her. And, by you saying that, you doing this all over again is saying that, she, did all this for nothing. You're wrong, or it's wrong, bub, and so are you. So that was, that was back when I loved Wolverine to pieces because he was who I needed him to be in the comics. He was a great foil supporting character with leading male potential, but he had not dominated every book I was reading at the time yet. He was on his way. He was getting there. He had only had his first mini at this point in time. He hadn't had Kitty and Wolverine, my favorite X-Men miniseries.
I mean, ever, for real, right? It's so good.
So good. And it's, I mean, and Yukio is like a scene stealer in that for me because I love Yukio. Love me some Yukio. But just that, I liked Wolverine the most before he started to, I know he's popular and everybody loves Wolverine. I just liked him better as a team member versus he's a solo artist who dominates every team book too. It just seemed contradictory to me that he was, he's a loner. Okay, if you're such a loner, why do I have to see you in every X-Men, X-Factor, X-Force, New Mutants book that is in print? I get it. I mean, I know why. Why?
I know, but it's like I wonder how people like how as a fan, obviously you hated it, like you thought you had that felt like it was watered down and everything, like you weren't on board with. Did you buy everything that came out Wolverine still, or?
I bought everything X-Men related back in the 80s, early 90s. Probably, I mean, anything mutant related, I got. So
Yeah,
yes, one of those people because you never knew at that point in time if it was gonna. They didn't start over every 24 issues with an issue one.
yeah,
it was
true.
all it was all connected at some point, even though they did their separation things for a while where everybody thought the X-Men was dead, or the X-Men couldn't know that Jean was alive in X-Factor, or Excalibur couldn't know the X-Men were alive after the adversary situation, even after Inferno, where X-Factor found out, but the New Mutants couldn't find out. But why did the New Mutants not know if Colossus showed up in New Mutant 73? It was all kind of, a jumble, but it was so much freaking fun. It didn't matter how convoluted it was. It was afternoon comic book store crack,
Right. Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I remember when my parents got divorced, we moved to Vegas and my mom got remarried and our stepdad used to take us to this comic book store called Page After Page. And it was amazing and the best time to like this is like me becoming like a huge comic book fan and the X-Men, it's a huge part of it. And what they would do is they would paint the front window of their shop and it would be like they must have like had one of those like things that they have in school where they put the like cellophane and like and projected on the wall because it would be like a direct um uh like copy of one of the X-Men covers or not necessarily just the X-Men but one of the popular covers and they killed it though like they did X-Men 173 with Rogue and Wolverine running that famous
Great
one.
cover.
Oh, great cover. They did 174, with the mastermind with the glowing
Other
hand with
great cover.
Madeline and
Paul
Scott.
Smith. I mean,
Paul Smith. There was not a bad one in the batch, I know. And they also did my favorite 175. I mean, that group with the Dark Phoenix, and it does not get much better than that,
Kitty
does it?
dressed Corsair, basically.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I know I love that, but I kind of love that she had different costumes under him. That Kitty was a perfect example of another Claremont success character. Like nobody writes Kitty better than Claremont, and he really just like put her through the arc. Like she just like talk about kill your darlings, right? He just like he really growed her up in that Kitty Pryde and Wolverine miniseries, and I was shook, of course, because
And Shadowcat, what a freaking cool name. It just, and out of nowhere, you
uh-huh.
know, because
And
she
just
never
that
really went by Ariel in the comics.
yeah, no, she didn't. No, I don't. Was she ever? I don't think she was actually ever. I don't recall her ever being called Ariel. I remember her wearing the Ariel costume in the God Loves Man Kills graphic novel,
I
which
think she's
was
referred to as Ariel in that in like like in the text boxes, and
uh
she's called Ariel by Spider-Man in the Marvel team up. But on the cover, it's Spider-Man and Kitty Pryde, not Spider-Man and Ariel. And she's referenced as Ariel in the X-Men Micronauts miniseries. But in the pages of Uncanny, there is not one time during that limbo period for her. Ooh, limbo plug. That no X-Man ever calls her Ariel in the pages of Uncanny X-Men. Not
yeah,
once.
I didn't think so.
But
Um,
her Marvel Universe entry that year when it came out had her listed in the A's as Ariel.
Interesting. Yeah, I feel like there must have been a reason. Maybe I don't know. I doubt it had anything to do with the Little Mermaid, but maybe I no, it would have been too.
No, it was years before the Little Mermaid. And then you had Fallen Angels where you had that Ariel, but I think they'd already worked her out as Shadowcat before that happened.
I mean, I kind of liked Sprite, like I don't know, like I kind of like Sprite and her kooky costumes. I remember Dave Cockrum like with the roller skates.
The worst
I mean,
costume, the one that wins the worst costume ever award with the leg warmers.
which reminds me, I've been threading a headband, and so here it is. Speaking of bad fashion, and I've got my
What
Chin Lee X-Men shirt. I want to give us props for bringing it I brought the X-Men Jim Lee shirt, which I think I'm going to wear every week and maybe just wear a different hoodie with it because I just love it and think it's so appropriate for the show. Maybe I can find a different Jim Lee X-Men shirt. But anyway,
And for those who can't see all of this, just so they can
I mean, that doesn't,
stuff.
yeah, that's like super appropriate. Like, okay, so you are a huge fan of Forge, and like, is this your friend's t-shirt line again?
Yes, it is X-Men tees, Surge Towers.
Because I don't know, like the way Jim Lee sort of modified the X-Men uniform, the way Forge has it, where how I mean, it's hard to say where he really did sort of make him sexy, right? Don't you think the way
Did he do that, or wasn't that Silvestri first? Because he did that with Moira McTaggart's Muir Isle X-Men when the Shadow King first showed up after Polaris was freed from Malice.
Are you serious?
Silvestri was the first one who introduced them as body armor. And then
interesting.
Yep, because that was when remember Amanda Sefton came back, and she was helping them fight the Reavers when they were trying to kill every mutant on Muir Isle because they saw Banshee and Moira and all mutants there as a threat because they thought the X-Men were either dead or off in space or whatever. There was that 20-issue gap where there was actual no team of X-Men, no official. But I did want to give you a little clarity on the Professor X thing. He did not let the X-Men think he was dead at the end of the first series. He was shot by Henry Peter Gyrick. He was mortally wounded. They had to call on Magneto for help because they realized that his magnetism could enhance his and Jean's telepathy, and they needed to make a call to Lilandra to get her to use her advanced technology to save his life, like they did in the comics. So Magneto comes and helps out in a pinch because he was about to start a mutant revolution on Genosha. He was doing Magnus things. And so he came to the X-Men's aid to help out his lifelong friend. They got in touch with Moira because they said if they sent a interspace transmission, it would take like 10 months to reach her, or 8 months. So they used Professor X's enhanced telepathy. Lilandra immediately teleported down, put some Shi'ar device on him to arrest him. She's like, well, by earthly standards, he's dead. But as you know, Shi'ar technology. So she said, we will take care of him. And they're like, well, when will he return? And it was kind of like left open-ended, like maybe never. But she took him off. She said, under Shi'ar care, he will live. So she took him off with her to save his life. And he left the X-Men in good hands. Mostly, I mean, he never really said Magnus take over because you assume that Cyclops and Storm were going to basically pick up the torch. But then in the first issue of this series, you find out he willed his estate to Magneto.
Okay, yes, that is correct. Now, correct me if I'm wrong here. So they cloned his body and that's how they saved him. Now is his body crippled and he has some sort of exoskeleton that he's able to walk and move in, or am I reading, or did I
No, you're thinking incorrectly? Storyline where they cloned him. This was they just saved life.
Oh, okay.
They revived him with advanced technology to keep him from staying clinically dead.
Okay, got it. Okay, so then, but they don't know he's alive.
They do know he's alive. They just know that he's under Lilandra's care off on Chandelier or Chandelar or whatever it's called.
Oh, thank you for bringing that up because I was like, Shara and Kithri, like when they kept saying it, like I just like can hear it in my like the voice in my head reading the comic for years and years and years, and to hear it, like I feel like that's the first time I've heard it spoken on television, and it kind of gave me the chills. I loved it. Like that was so cool.
Kip says it during the Phoenix Saga, so that's another reason you need to go back and watch this.
I know. Okay, I will. I know people
I'm
are
going to make this so tempting for you after each podcast.
I know.
But that outfit notice was the one I wasn't sure at first. Was it him or the War Scroll that impersonated him? Because remember in that storyline towards the end of Jim Lee's run towards the end of Claremont's run, where you see the X-Men who were reunited after the Extinction Agenda go off into space with Lila Cheney to rescue Professor X, but it's a Super Skrull posing as Professor X. That Super Skrull was wearing that outfit. And there were like Easter eggs. I think Vulcan was there. which I think is the long lost Summers brother. He's the
Yes.
yes.
I mean, oh
And
God.
Ronan, of course. But my interesting question was, or my question, maybe it's not interesting. Deathbird seemed to have control of the Imperial Guard, like she was some sort of field commander for Lalandra, but it's made perfectly clear in the original series, as well as this one, she's an outlaw, a renegade. So
That's what I was saying. Like, I
why
thought
was
she was like a
Gladiator?
straight up villain. She seemed to have a stake in it, right? Like she was.
But she tried to kill Lalandra during Beyond Good and Evil. She sicked Apocalypse on her.
Yeah,
So I
something
don't know
wasn't
why,
right. Like,
because Gladiator looks very dedicated to Lalandra.
yeah.
And in that first few minutes, he was kind of doing Deathbird's dirty work. So I would like some clarity on that in a further episode. I don't know if we're going to get it, but.
Mm, I mean, I mean, on one hand, I'd like to think they know what they're doing. I mean, I feel like the nuances of some of the storylines are so, on point that I don't know, maybe they're going to surprise us. I don't know, but I've never been a big fan of like Lalandra and Charles Xavier love story. Like that's, oh, I'm sorry. Am I killing you? Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, no.
I just like you
One of my favorite
selfish.
couples. She makes him like not boring.
Okay. I don't know. She makes him creepy. She's like this bird alien lady. I don't know. I don't know. I feel like they just have like a really passionate love life.
Well,
I'll put it that way. Maybe they do. I don't know. I don't know. Where I do I have to say, like, oh my gosh, that reminds me, the animation is amazing on the show. It looks beautiful in the way they captured
stunning.
like Lilandra in her Shi'ar armor. Oh my God. Amazing. It just like
Deathbird
it
looked
looked like
great.
it looked like Paul Smith. It looked like John Byrne. It looked beautiful. It was stunning. I absolutely loved it. Like props to the production of this cartoon is amazing.
Um, but yeah, I wish they had not dominated the episode with mostly Shi'ar stuff
Oh
because
my God, I
I
know.
felt like we were promised a Stormforge full episode, and I think they got less time in this episode than they did in Life Death One.
I agree 100%. I feel that Charles and Lalandra so dominated this episode, and I would have been okay with it if it was its own episode. But we, like you said, we were promised Life Death Part Two, and we got screwed in the pooch because it was, yeah, it wasn't even like half the episode, and it was so soulless and emotionless, and just like I don't know, like I wanted him to build the gun, I wanted him to shoot her. I just like, it was so, especially after you shared like with me the few pages that from the actual comic story. And I don't know, it just felt like they had such a journey together and it just felt like so quick here. And like, yeah, like, oh, you were with, oh, and what also killed me is like how she like came to the conclusion that she was better off without her powers. That doesn't sound like Storm to me. I feel like she kind of loves who she is and loves, like, embraces her powers as part of her. I don't know. Am I missing something there?
Well, I mean, we know ultimately she didn't really feel that way. It was just, I think it was her way of saying that she
She could
needed to
live
go
with it.
through this. She needed to go through this period to really discover who she was without being the unreachable, untouchable goddess, as referenced in those panels I sent to you from when she gained her powers back in Fall of the Mutants. Because remember, there was a hesitation where as soon as he uses his technology on her, then there's nothing. But she has to want it. She has
Oh,
to.
yeah. That's
It's
a
not
good
about
point.
getting her powers restored. She had to actualize the desire to have her powers back and embrace what she was and who she was going to become again and how she had grown. And while I agree, it was almost like Inferno, but Inferno was done way better. This was just like the Reader's Digest Cliff Notes, in 2 pages, life death version of.
Oh my God. You know,
And
it's the quintessential, you had it in you all along, Dorothy, I guess. Yeah,
but
they
what I
could have
did,
done Life Death in one episode and like really it was so choppy and horror like not my favorite to be. I especially they raised the bar with Remember It last week. So
Mhm.
This,
Oh, and I figured out that title, which you may have too. It's Gambit's catchphrase. The
yeah,
name is Gambit. Remember
remember it. Yeah, I have.
exactly two times
That
in
did.
the phrase. I'm like, oh, I should have brought that up, but we were just, having so much fun with the anguish of last week's episode.
I know, true. Well, I know that would have made it even more meaningful, but I had since found that out since we recorded. So
I figured, and
I'm wearing this headband in honor of Gambit. He doesn't exactly wear a headband, but it's sort of. I don't have one of that. I mean, I can't do all that.
just get a trench coat, a long staff, and get out your deck of cards.
No,
But
I know someone
um,
made I saw someone made the comment online. This is so scandalous that Gambit is no one's favorite superhero, and I have to strongly disagree with that. Like, I feel like he's not my favorite, but I've always loved him a lot, and I feel like there have to be people out there. He is Channing Tatum's favorite superhero, and I know that for a fact because
that's why he was
Channing.
going to fight, right?
He was, yeah, exactly. He had major commitment to it, and I still think it should happen. I still think it should happen. I'm
Well,
putting it out there.
I don't dislike Gambit. I like him with Rogue, but I think part of Gambit's, I'm not going to say problem, but part of his character development or growth or something is maybe similar to Jubilee. And this is no offense because I don't dislike Jubilee. They were very 90s trendy. And I think once the 90s ended, they
should have.
not, but I mean, I don't think they hold up as well, maybe to some people. A lot of people still love them. I mean, Jubilee became a vampire, I mean,
I think I don't have a firm grasp on reality. Like, you know what I mean? They'll always be fine to me. So,
and Gambit and Rogue finally got married, right? Yeah, they did get married in the comics.
oh, see, I don't like that. I don't know. Like, I'm sort of like, I want everything to be like the super friends. Like, it just goes back to the same status quo for 30 years. Nobody ever gets older. Like, they're the character, except for Storm. She can go on her amazing journey. Like, I don't know, like, like we have these X-Men books coming up, and I need Claremont to get a hold of Storm once again. Although the last time he got a hold of her, she was Lil Rose, so I don't know if that.
I've got to read that.
Yeah, you do have to read it. I think you'll actually like it. You'll be surprised. So I don't know, get the trade paperback or something.
Yeah, I'll get the digitals. I only get a few hard copies these days. Among them, like I mentioned to you earlier, this facsimile edition of Days of Future Past Part 1, which has all the ads in it and stuff, as you know.
Gorgeous. And the holographic cover, the holofoil looks beautiful. And you know what? I think that they only charge $1 more, or not, sometimes not even $1 more for that. I know people say they're expensive at $4.99, but I think it's totally worth it. Oh my God, yes.
Signed by Louise.
So much fun. Was that her first issue that she wrote?
Her first issue as a writer, not just as the editor.
Oh my gosh. So in case you guys didn't watch last week, Philip went to BlickCon in Virginia and got to meet the Simonsons and get like that beautiful Walter Simonson signature, which is very interesting. Is that Walter's or Louise's there?
This is Louise's because he did not draw this issue, but this is the first Apocalypse.
Oh, I was going to say, yeah, that looks nothing like him. And plus, we all know his signature. We all know. Yes, we're getting there. Oh my gosh. So Louise signed that. Did she say anything about her time on that book that you are able to share with us?
Well, and here's the first official appearance of Archangel, even though it's not on the cover. Everybody thinks this is his first appearance because it's his first cover.
Yeah.
But it's actually 23, so I got him to sign both. And then, of course, I have 2 Simonsons, a Claremont, and a Shooter on this. Just get a Terry Austin, and I'm done.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
I got to talk more than I got to talk to him. He was doing commission sketches and stuff for people.
Yeah.
But they loved my canvas. She thought it was, when I told her how I had it done, she's like, that's really creative. I said, well, I just send the image in and order it online, and CVS prints it out for me, or a photo lab that does stuff. But anyway, I don't remember the name.
She's like, we've met a lot of committed neurotic psychos, but you really take the cake. And
he signed that big Simonson way that you mentioned. I'll have to show that to you later, but
Oh yes, please, because I mean, come on. That must have you watched him sign that. I mean, that's like, I don't know, that's some sort of magic like happening right before your eyes right there. It's like one of your heroes, especially with that signature,
yeah, that
which
big.
in case anyone doesn't know, the origin of that signature is that when he was young, his mom told him to write his name inside the figure of an animal, and his favorite animal was a dinosaur. So that is the silhouette of his signature.
Thank you. I learned something new today.
Isn't that amazing? I mean,
Excelsior.
Shara and Kithri preserve us.
Goddess.
I know the lords of the earth and air.
Yeah. Oh, my
I don't know.
stars and garters.
Baj Moy. I know that we're getting into the territory with those that I don't know if I'm pronouncing correctly. Probably not.
Whatever. It was Achnoin Zane. That was Nightcrawler's.
Meine Gott.
Yeah. But I basically, like I said, I got to talk to her longer. She was a delight, and I said to her, let me word this. Said, New Mutants wasn't the same after you left. I missed you, basically. And she's like, right? And I said, yeah. She's like, did you keep reading? I said, yes, because I was dedicated and I wanted to see where the characters went. Because I'd been with New Mutants for, what? It was 89 when New Mutants ended, beginning of 90. So almost 8 years, So
It's
it was
an
an investment.
investment. It is.
I,
Well,
I, had, I had to read X-Force, I had to see what happened next.
I mean, I was there. Like, yeah, like leaving wasn't actually even a consideration for me. Like, I would never, no.
No, and I like eventually what happened with Cannonball's character after the first year when he got to like take lead of the team when Cable was on sabbatical. That was kind of cool. So, and I really liked the execution song. Were you still reading it?
I was, yeah. I was right there till the bitter end.
Till the 90s ended, but so back to Storm, which by the way,
you know what? Sadly, I felt like I got to the point with X-Men where I collected it, and sometimes I didn't read it always. Could you believe? Like, obviously, that is appropriate because of this episode. When Storm got her powers back, somehow she magically morphed into the Dave Cockrum designed original costume she debuted in, and I died, as I'm sure everyone. Like, I'm surprised that I didn't feel like the earth jolt or something like that, because yeah, from a fan perspective, that was fan service like you would not believe. Like, that was just like unprecedented. Her, like, it was on point. It looked perfect.
Beautifully drawn.
Beautifully drawn. It looked exactly like it should. Her using her powers in it, her flying around in it. I was gagged the whole time. And that actually was very emotional for me, obviously.
Absolutely. And I guess the takeaway is, if people have questions, well, how did she get her powers back? So my theory is when Forge did his treatment on her last week, or last episode, LifeDeath 1, remember when he ran her through that scanner trying to reactivate her abilities? It did work, but subconsciously she was not ready, because she said Executioner's neutralizer wasn't the only thing dampening my powers, and she's like, now that lie is over. You are thunder, I am lightning. And then we got what we've been waiting for. That 3.5 years wait, thankfully, was only like a 3 or 4 week wait. Because remember, back in the days, we had to wait years to get resolution.
Yeah, that is true. I know. And I don't know. I have mixed feelings. Like, I feel like it definitely had more of an emotional impact, like the way that it was dragged out and just the things that she had to face without her powers. Like, I feel like it would have been super interesting to include the duel between, Cyclops and Storm for leadership of the team.
Mm-hmm.
But, I guess she can't do everything. And they kind of needed to, it was probably enough for them to include the story, and they needed to get her back to the status quo because obviously, there's licensing and everything. So,
because at first I wasn't even sure if she had gotten her powers back. I thought, is this just part of the adversary's illusion that he's been casting? he, she, them, they, I wasn't sure because the transformation. So I'm like, is her overalls from Walmart? Like, are they made of unstable molecules? Is she now embracing the sorcery side of her heritage that they didn't do enough with for the longest time in the comics, but was constantly hinted at and then flat out stated during the Magic miniseries? But then, if you remember back after Life Death 1 in the comics, when the dire rats are approaching and Forge's sensors can't spot them, but she does. And he's like, how the heck did she do that? She's no sorceress. And that was another thing of like, well, she's not just your average mutant or former mutant because she was neutralized at that point. But so, yeah, I mean, I think it was a great visual, but I think it's one of those things we're just going to have to suspend disbelief, like Morph's new upgraded powers that include weaponry and immolating powers.
Right. I mean, what can I say? Like, overall, like, it was a good episode. I mean, it was good. Like you said, we were satisfied. We got what we wanted. You know what I mean? So,
the bar was just set so high last week.
Now, in the opening credits, not Storm, but Forge does appear in his X-Men costume. Am I
in a
remembering?
Clip, maybe, but notice Nightcrawler was added in the roll call. But
yes, that was nice to see. But
it was nice to see, but he's not officially a member yet. And why is Storm not in the opening credits when she's been in every episode except for last week? And one reasoning, they're like, she's not a member of the team. I'm like, she's just on sabbatical, but she's
well, no, that's I kind of like that because then like they leave you in suspense whether she's going to get her power back. I mean,
and that's what
so
I think.
Next episode they're going to open the credits and she's going to be in that beautiful Dave Cockrum costume, and we're going to be like,
that. Yes. So yeah, I think it wasn't a matter of her not being a member or this or that. They just didn't want us to see her credited using her powers because they wanted to keep us in suspense. Because like I said, Nightcrawler being in the opening credits, when last we saw him, he looked half dead and didn't officially join the team.
They should have had her like sitting in a folding chair on top of her name or something.
Climbing the mountain in her overalls.
I would have thought that the overalls came from like the Gap or somewhere cute, not Walmart.
But well,
but I guess
molecules, she can make them out of anything.
True. I know that, actually I kind of thought that because they kind of look like the same material as her clothes in the comic book. Or is it not her clothes, but her costume? I feel like I kind of love that, like when John Byrne would put her in street clothes that were like a variation of her costume, like when she went to Kitty with the malt shop or whatever. And it was like that, and her hair was sort of like tied up and like but she still had like her headdress on. I loved it when they showed up.
She went to the opera with Stevie Hunter.
Oh yeah. I always loved that. That was so great. So I don't. What is next week's title? Where are we going from here?
Which has got to be it's a cable centric episode. I'm willing to bet money because, like I said, that was what Rogue called him in season 2 of the original series.
Right. Maybe.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say maybe she has such a like grandpa fetish. Maybe a love triangle between her, Cable, and Magneto could start up.
Well, and when people are like, "Oh, is Gambit really dead?" Which I think we can say before he is. If nothing else cemented that when she said, "I can't feel you," and I'm going to do it again. Lenore Zahn should be winning an Emmy for this right now. But did you not get Misty? And that's like,
oh my God, I was a rat. No, not Mystique.
And not Misty Knight, former ally of the X-Men.
No, I know. I forgot to mention that for some reason I don't like Moira McTaggart, and I used to. Like, I feel like I liked her when I saw her, the way like Byrne drew her in the Proteus and everything, but I don't know, seeing her depicted on the cartoon, I was just like, eh.
I liked when she kind of got, bimbo-esque when she was possessed by the Shadow King. When she was dressing all like she was going to the club after she was done doing treatments at Muriel.
So we saw Mr. Sinister appear at the end of the episode, and
Uh,
I don't know how I
well,
feel about that.
I just did not see him being the culprit because this was a technological attack, not a biological one or
Yeah,
supernatural.
I was hoping we would go in a different direction because I feel like they did it so well in Inferno. I was like, are we ready to like revisit him already?
Yeah, and I just thought they were going to dive into either Apocalypse or Bastion, who was on Forge's wall of blame. Because as far as like seeing possible culprits, because that Adler guy who created the neutralizer that was in season 1 was up there because he took Forge's technology to create the executioner's weapon. Bastion was in a picture with Forge. So I thought Bastion might be related, possibly responsible. My other nephew Sean thought Cassandra Nova, and I don't know as much about Cassandra as I do about some of the other characters because that's when I started,
Well, all I know is that she's Xavier's twin that tried to kill him in the womb.
Mm-hmm.
Which I'm like really, but oh, you know what? It just occurred to me though that, maybe okay, so speculating on what could happen in Bright Eyes, like what is Cable gonna do? But a lot of people, I think you included, mentioned that part of his purpose could be bringing back Gambit to life because he can travel through time, so he could like prevent his death. And all the people from Genosha who died, which I don't know, like I felt like it had such an emotional impact on one hand, but then you got to think about kind of the licensing. Like he is kind of a popular character in the cartoon, isn't he? So like, do they
Correct.
really want to kill him? Like we're only on season 1 of this reboot, but the door is open, especially in the X-Men universe. So maybe Cable could be bringing him back. What else could he be doing?
Well, next week, I don't think they're going to deal with that. I think it's just going to be a prequel of what led Cable up to that scene with Madeline. So we're going to see Cable's story leading up to Mommy, look out.
I don't know, man.
And then
I
maybe see
don't.
what after he is taken back by when he body slides back to the future.
Mhm.
But here's a
Yeah.
question. I didn't
Uh-huh.
even think about this. Why was Magneto able to use his powers to defend the Morlocks when Leech was sitting right next to him?
Hmm.
Isn't Leech a power dampener based on proximity, not based on touch?
Y- Theoretically, yes. But let's see. Was he dampening everyone else's power? Was he wearing a dampener himself? Or,
I mean, unless Leech had like a collar on to dampen his dampening.
yeah. Because I
I
mean,
mean,
who wants to hang around him? I mean, everyone's going to get killed.
it could be, like anyone within like 20 feet of him, and there are a lot of mutants who warrant, but Magneto and Tommy and Erg and Ape were right there. So Magneto theoretically should not have been able to protect them if Leech's powers were functioning correctly or in sync with how his comic book counterpart works.
So, what episode are we geared up? Obviously, we are going to see the return of Xavier, so that must be coming. I would imagine they're going to do Cable next week and then have the Xavier return follow right after it.
Yeah, because that's the 3-part finale after the Cable episode.
Already?
Already, we only have 4 episodes left.
I'm like already like panicking. Like it's been a mix of emotions. So, but I don't want it to end though. Like I'm so glad that we are locked in for season 2 and season 3. That said, like I really like just this has been an emotional roller coaster though because the first 3 episodes were so good, and then the 4th episode was so lackluster, and then we had the gut wrenching, remember it, and then we had this. I don't know. I don't even know how to feel about this week. That said, though, I'm glad it exists. It was better for happening than not happening, and it could have been better. I do feel, but a lot of good came out of it, so I'm happy with it.
And Storm and Forge are back to being in love and not hating. She doesn't hate him right now, so I'm totally down for that. But I think one of my predictions came true that she was going to see on the news what happened in Genosha to get
Mm-hmm.
her to what happened in the other episode. I think I said that. I
Oh
may
yeah,
not have.
because it definitely felt like, yeah, like what are you doing? Like you don't have a choice. You have to go, you know.
Hmm. And again, thankfully, they showed that scene where you see her in her full Cockrum Barn, persona. So I'm like, okay, the power restoration thing wasn't an adversary-induced illusion. It's all real. Thank you. I'm so happy.
So what brought her back to the X-Men in the comic books after she regained her powers? She just like immediately went.
She was. They opened the portal between the adversary's alternate dimension and this one, and they were taken prisoner by the adversary. And then the X-Men and Roma, remember, they fought
Oh
off
yeah,
again,
yeah, yeah.
and
And
then
then they
Storm, and they were all dead and brought back to life by Roma.
oh yeah. Hmm.
So because they had to seal the portal to get the adversary, and that was a great Rogue moment for me when she's able to absorb Maze's powers, and she's got the mystical shaman know-how or whatever. And for once, you see her not being overloaded because she just basically, like, the adversary is like a god, and we knew how when she tried absorbing some gods, she had no problem with Thor, but she couldn't handle Loki.
Hmm.
So it was just nice. There were some good moments. Follow the Mutants gave everybody a shining moment in the comics, in
Yeah.
the page X-Men anyway. Like I said, Dazzler with the face knife thing, and Madeline not caring that she's powerless and helpless, but she's still there till the end. I mean, it was just all good stuff.
It
You know,
was. I know. I know. It was so like just like wildly inventive and just like, you know what I mean? Like you can, as a reader, it's like you can really believe what you were reading at the time. It was just like so much fun.
and even the ending where Kitty sees the news and then she goes to see Nightcrawler awaken from his coma, and he says it's news isn't about the X-Men, and she's like, oh, it's the worst, and they embrace. And it's
Uh,
just leading into Excalibur the next month, because they did the special edition of Excalibur, but we had to wait 6 months after that for the ongoing series.
did you lose your mind? Yeah, I'm sure you got the special edition of
Of
Excalibur,
course,
right? Yeah.
seeing
Like,
Rachel back, I was doing backflips in my head.
oh my God, I love Rachel so much, as we've talked about her before. But yeah, the art was just so stunning on that bookshelf edition. It was just
It was
amazing, which led into the regular series, which I absolutely adored, which was just so much fun and just so beautiful and like whimsical and like such a great mesh of characters. I really loved Captain Britain. I don't know if you've ever read like Alan Moore and Alan Davis's Captain Britain.
I got
Um,
a trade paperback back in the 80s, early 90s when it was released, which was supposed to be like leading into
well,
Excalibur.
if you still have it, I think it's like super valuable, so you should hang on to it. But if not just monetarily, like the stories are freaking amazing. Yeah, like it's so good. Like it's very like Betsy Braddock heavy, so I know you would love that. And
Isn't that when she's blinded?
yes, and uh like they have like the did you read The Clandestine at all?
I tried, but it just was
I
not my.
mean, I know, yeah, like it wasn't great, but it was kind of weird. But it just goes to show, I mean, I hate to say it, but sometimes when uh artists or whatever that we loved on the X-Men go to other things, it's not quite the same because it's not the X-Men. I hate to say that, but sometimes it's true.
Very
It
true.
is, yeah.
Look at, did we like? I mean, we loved Byrne's work on other stuff. I mean, he had great runs on Superman, Fantastic Four, but do we like any of his work more than X-Men? Just hard to say.
Um, that's kind of an interesting call for me because I'm very, very like in love with the Fantastic Four because I read his Fantastic Four before I read his X-Men.
I just thought his Storm, his Jean Grey, oh my God, his Phoenix is just.
But yeah, I mean, actually, that said, like it's hard to top his X-Men. Like it is, like the just he was on fire and like he just drew those characters in just like such an appealing way that like no one has since. So,
And we'll
you
never
know,
get that back because, now we have 300 characters rotating when back then we only had 8 characters to worry about, or what, it was awesome.
That's what I know I'm sounding like, a fossil, but I don't give a crap. I feel like, like, yeah, it has gone too far. Like, like part of this launch for these new books coming out this summer is supposedly like a return to basics, which I kind of hope it is. Like, very like pared down. Like, that's the only way to get me on board. Like, they were too out of control with like the freaking Met Gala and just like islands and like, didn't they have like, I don't know, was it global or like was it interstellar? I don't know. Like, it was too much. Like, I feel like the X-Men should just be this small group of outlaw heroes who, you know, what is the tagline?
Protect a world that fears and hates them.
Exactly,
Where
exactly.
did I get that from? That's got to be somewhere.
It's so like in the front of every single X-Men comic that Chris Claremont wrote. Um, in a world like I can see War X-Men 117 with that beautiful splash page of Storm and the rain above the ship. Oh my God, I'm getting chills just thinking about it. I mean, this is what being an X-Man fan is like, being a complete psycho, apparently.
Obsession is a good thing, or it's passion. Passion, that's the good word.
It is major passion. Like, I mean, we have to go in a couple minutes, but is there anything else you want to say about meeting the Simonsons? Like how cool that was?
I mean, I would say maybe at Baltimore Comic Con, which is only an hour from me. So I might meet them again in September. They had really long lines there. So thankfully, this was a smaller event. So even though they had a line, it wasn't like, Baltimore, I had no chance to get near them because I was bouncing between Art Adams, Chris Claremont, um, Bob McLeod, super nice guy too. Um, I made him smile. I always try to make a creator smile by telling them what an impact they had. And I just told him, I don't want to say it because I might start a war, how his New Mutants meant a lot to me.
Oh, yes. Well, see, I'm glad that you're always catching yourself and being diplomatic about the way you phrase things because it's love for everybody. Everybody who touched the
Absolutely.
X-Men is, just
He
like had
created
such a,
those characters, he brought them to life, except for Karma. She already existed,
yes.
but he furthered her
And
along.
wait, there was another one who actually had made an appearance. But didn't Cannibal appear before the graphic novel?
Nope,
I
just
feel like,
Karma.
are you sure? Okay, I guess you would know. You were probably, yeah, you're right.
Well,
You have
one
to be.
other New Mutant appeared before the graphic novel, but she wasn't a member yet, and that was Ileana.
Oh, okay. Well, I would know that. I mean, obviously, but yeah,
And
maybe
that's a little
I
trivia
was
question.
thinking in error.
That's a trivia question you could ask at some point if you want to say, which two members of the New Mutants who appear in #1 appeared before Marvel graphic novel? And they're going to be just Karma, just Karma. It's like, no, Ileana's in New Mutants #1 because she and Moira McTaggart meet Gabrielle Haller, who's Legion's mother. She's not a member yet, but she's in New
Right.
Mutants, and she's in New Mutants 3. So
Uh,
it's like typically, you can say, well, she's a member later, but we didn't say original member. It's a trivial question, but it's fun.
I always loved the way Dave Cockrum drew Ileana as a teenager. Their
Yeah.
ponytail.
And I thought Sal Buscema did a great job with her.
I think so too. Yeah, for sure.
And I liked his limbo and his stepping discs.
And
I
Art
mean,
Adams, oh my God, is like
well,
Art Adams is the my favorite Ileana artist for
his
sure.
his everything. I mean, his
Yeah, I know.
Danielle as a Valkyrie, uh, Karma as a pajama clad warrior who lost 500 pounds on the desert. I mean, just it's all good stuff.
I know that's like it's so insane, like the floral print. It goes from being like the world's biggest moo to being like this. I don't even know how to describe it. The way like it was so 80s, the
It took a
headband
couple
and
months
the like.
to that to you because sign me up.
Oh gosh.
So next week, Bright Eyes, probably cable centric, and maybe at the end of that episode, we'll kind of see a Storm and Professor X show back up at the end, to join the effort to fix what has been broken or to deal with the aftermath with their teammates.
Yes, I feel like I don't know. I feel like I'm learning to like I have no expectations. Like, I don't know what to, they're definitely throwing us some curveballs here. Some of them very welcome, some of them questionable, but this is like definitely a thrill ride. Definitely the show everyone's talking about. I am I'm glad we have 4 episodes left, but I'm dreading the long hiatus because it's going to be like what, a year? But don't say it's a year.
But we have plans for you after the last episode.
That's true. I have like 78 episodes to watch, so I have my work cut out for me.
Yes, you do. And then you can do X-Men Evolution after that.
Maybe I will. Why not?
And I have to do a rewatch of Wolverine and the X-Men, which the title alone is the reason I did not want to watch it, because I just thought it was clearly biased of who was going to get the focus. It's actually not a bad series from the one time I watched it.
I was going to say, why should I suffer alone? You have to watch it.
I will rewatch that with you. But again, we can do half a season critique of 13. It's 26 episodes, so you can go 13 in, and then we'll be like, we'll do the first half, and then we'll do the second half.
Yes, I know. I'm glad I waited till I became middle-aged to start watching cartoons again.
But I mean, I don't want to say they were never not, but this cartoon specifically right now, X-Men are awesome again.
Well, no, I have to say, and this is what, I got my friend at work to watch it, and I'm trying to get other people to watch it because I feel for real, this is the show. It's as good as any drama on Netflix. You know what I mean? It's I feel like you don't have to be a comic book fan to watch it. Nope. And yeah, X Fever is on fire, and it's gonna continue to grow 100%.
We needed this big time. And I
think we really did. I'm so happy. I never thought I would be this excited about the X-Men again, and here we are, and I'm living for it. So I think that's a good note to end on. I think we have much to look forward to next week with Bright Eyes, and make sure everyone likes this episode and subscribes because you don't want to miss our weekly recap and review. And thanks once again, Philip, for being here. A pleasure as always. And so much fun. Anyway, so we will see you guys next week. Thanks for watching. Excelsior.